So it's come down to this. Hey everybody, welcome back to Big Mike Sports, hosted by the one and only Big Mike himself.
The one and only.
We are Atlanta-born, Carolina-raised, Detroit-driven, and on Christmas Eve, the Lions did something that they have not done for the past 30 years, certainly in my lifetime, and in many other fans' lifetime as well. That is to deliver a division championship to the city of Detroit, and eventually host a home playoff game at Ford Field for the first time ever. This will be the first home playoff game for the Lions since that 1993 season, only the sixth in their history. There's 93, 91, and I believe you have to go all the way back to like 1962 or something like that. 1957 is the last time that they hosted a championship game, back before the Super Bowl when they blew out the Cleveland Browns 59-14. That was a pretty good time for both teams back then, as they were both championship contenders back in the 50s. And for the first time since then, both teams are now in contention once again. It's the first season in, I think it was 70 years, that the Browns and the Lions have both won 10 games in the same season. So, big turnaround for the formerly bad teams, and also the same for the formerly dynastic teams. Patriots are bad now, but then also the Dolphins, Bills, Lions, and Browns are all really good now. So it's just funny how things turn over in about every 20 years or so. But anyway, the Lions were able to recover from their rough patch that they had during that stretch with the Packers and Bears and all that fun stuff. And they continue to play possibly their best ball at just the right time. And every other NFC contender right now is hitting their own rough patch and struggling right now. Whether it's Brock Purdy and the Niners, Purdy throwing 4 interceptions, 3 in the first half against the Ravens. Now, of course, the Ravens are the toughest defense in the NFL and one of the best teams, period. But still, if you're Brock Purdy and you make your name off of efficiency and accuracy, you definitely do not want to be throwing multiple interceptions in the first half and, trailing in crunch time. Jury's still out on whether Brock Purdy can really do it. Cowboys, of course, lose to the Dolphins on a heartbreaker. They had a chance to win it, but then there's that fumble at the end. Now, it wasn't all bad for the Cowboys in that game. They did hold the Dolphins to, I think it was only one offensive touchdown, but they just weren't able to pull it out in crunch time there. I feel like the Cowboys are not a very clutch team. Of course, there is that infamous spike play that happened a few years ago. I can't remember exactly when it was. Was it last year? I don't know. Somebody's going to have to let me know about that one, but yeah, Cowboys not necessarily a clutch team, which is why it's looking pretty good for the Lions to go in there and possibly pull off a big upset. And then the Eagles, of course, let the Giants hang around. They are 11-4 right now, but they did have that 3-game losing streak. Only a plus 26 point differential. Last time they won by 2 possessions was Week 7, one of only 3 times this season. They are 8-2 in one-possession games, however. That normally doesn't bode well for you in the following season. Just ask the Vikings about that one. So yeah, jury's still out as to whether the Eagles can continue to be one of the dominating teams or whether they could possibly get a little first-round exit. And a first-round exit for them is even more likely if you consider the fact that they could still play themselves all the way down to the 3 seed. The Cowboys right now, I think, are the 5 seed. And if everything falls right for the Lions, they beat the Cowboys and win out, and the Rams beat the 49ers in the final game of the season. That's the path the Lions have for the 1 seed. So what a great time to be alive, where the Lions have not only a theoretical chance at the 1 seed, but a pretty decent, realistic one as well. So we'll see how that season plays out. Of course, with this Lions-Cowboys game, this is going to be probably the biggest game of the season for the Lions, the regular season at least, as we kind of see what exactly they're made of and how they match up against other playoff teams and other contenders, really.
Check the statistics.
Now, looking back at that Christmas Eve game against the Vikings real quick, remember when I said that Nick Mullins likes to turn the ball over in crunch time? Well, he did it again in this one, and I didn't really expect it to be up to this level exactly, throwing a total of 4 interceptions, 2 in the first half and then 2 in the fourth quarter, including the one in the end zone to ice the game. Intercepted by Ifeatu Melifonwu, a breakout safety for the Lions. He's been playing out of his mind the past couple weeks. Now, back in the, I guess, kind of middle-ish part of the season, thinking like the Falcons game right around then, after C.J. Gardner-Johnson went down. Melifonwu and Tracy Walker, the kind of reserve safeties, they were playing pretty well, and laying down some big hits, creating contact in the pass game to kind of break up passes to receivers. For whatever reason, that kind of disappeared during that stretch where the team was struggling. But now the safeties are back, and they are just getting back to what they were doing. Now, of course, Brian Branch, the star rookie safety, was injured for a little while, so maybe that could, you could point to that as the little lull there. But he's back, and he's better than ever. Both him and Melifonwu went toe-to-toe with the Vikings and came out on top. Brian Branch, 6 tackles, 2 passes defense, and interception. I think he may have added a sack there as well. And of course, Ife Melifonwu, 5 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 passes defense, and the game-winning interception. Good enough for the NFC Defensive Player of the Week. Then to round it all off in that safety group, free safety Kirby Joseph, 9 tackles, 2 passes defense, 2 interceptions, and absolutely popped Justin Jefferson when he was coming over the middle. Now, there was somebody else, I can't remember exactly which player it was, but ended TJ Hawkinson's season with a vicious low blow. Took out his legs from underneath him. It looked like he would have at least, had a pretty big bruise on his shin from that one. But no, a torn ACL and MCL on that one. So a little bit of revenge against Hawkinson, perhaps. Ever since Hawkinson got traded to the Vikings and he made that comment about finally being able to go somewhere where he can win, the Vikings are 14-11 and the Lions are 19-6. Basically, this whole run that the Lions have been on ever since that midpoint of last season happened after the Hawkinson trade. So kind of funny how that works out. We'll see if the Lions can end up even going for that first seed and really making Hawkinson regret all that stuff. But either way, they're going to have a home playoff game there at Ford Field. Now, the Vikings have plenty of talent at receiver, and it flashed several times with Justin Jefferson especially, but also KJ Osborne got involved a little bit. But ultimately, it came down to the quarterback play for the Vikings, which they've had some flashes from these quarterbacks that have been starting in place of the injured Kirk Cousins, but it always just ends up crumbling at the end. Mullins in that game against the Bengals had a couple interceptions, but in this one he throws a total of 4, including 2 in the fourth quarter, like we said there. So the quarterback can't protect the ball. You're not going to win very many times. Now, Cam Sutton, who's been lights out most of the year, was burned by Justin Jefferson a few times, which is, come to be expected because Jefferson is so good. But it could be a cause for concern, and who knows if it could even show maybe a potential weakness that Sutton has on film that the Cowboys could exploit with CeeDee Lamb. That's another thing. CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson, two of the best receivers in the game, they're going to be pretty similar. So CeeDee Lamb could put up similar numbers to what Jefferson did against the Lions, but also the teams are kind of the same because the Vikings have that aggressive defense. Well, the Cowboys have a pretty good defense that can get aggressive at times as well. And then, both teams have a very explosive passing offense when they're working right. Now, of course, Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Nick Mullins, so we'll see how he can execute there. But, it's not necessarily unheard of that Dak Prescott can have games where he struggles. So who knows, the Lions could continue their streak of forcing turnovers on defense if Prescott's able to throw them a couple interceptions. Now, this season, Prescott only has 7 interceptions, but last year he struggled with the turnovers. And, if you get some pressure on him, he could fumble the ball as well. So that'll be an interesting matchup to watch there as the Lions pass rush, which has gotten very aggressive in recent weeks as they've kind of made it a point to try and get after the quarterback more. As, earlier in the year, they didn't blitz as much. They sent primarily the front 4 after the quarterback. But after the lull in the pass rush there during that little rough patch in the middle of the season, they've turned more aggressive, and that's paid dividends for them. As we saw in this last game with their safeties getting multiple sacks. They're sending people from everywhere. They're sending some linebackers on these blitzes too. Anzalone is pretty good at pressuring the quarterback and getting through those gaps there. So, yeah, they're going to continue doing that and trying to hamper Dak Prescott there and put some pressure on him. Lions defense, you really love to see the aggressiveness that they've been showing the past few weeks, not only in blitzing and getting after the quarterback, but also, hitting with purpose, making contact, and, at certain times, really getting the ball out of the hands of receivers and stuff like that when they come over the middle. So want to continue to see that aggressiveness. Want to continue to hear some pops when they go and tackle people. Just running through people. The team is really embodying the phrase "running through a wall." It's really hard to get by them once they put the pads on you. So we definitely want to see that continue for the Lions defense as they go into this game. Now, in that last game against Minnesota, 11 quarterback hits and 4 sacks, but Mullins was still somehow able to throw for 411 yards. So, the secondary could definitely tighten up a little bit. As you said, Cam Sutton, who's been lights out, kind of struggled a little bit in the last game. We'll see if he's able to bounce back. And Brian Branch and guys like that in the safety room, they definitely need to continue playing at the same level that they're playing at. But the Lions are coming into this one with a whole bunch of momentum, and the Cowboys are kind of not playing their best right now. Of course, those 2 games that they lost came on the road, where the team is 3-5 on the road and undefeated at home. But who knows? They could come back, and the Lions could just be too much for them, because the Lions are playing with a lot of fire, a lot of passion. They're playing for a lot since they're about to go into their first big playoff run in God knows how long. And the Cowboys are just kind of potentially just going through the motions right now. Who knows? Mike McCarthy, the Cowboys coach, has definitely stated that he's pretty worried about the Lions, so he's going to try and do everything that he can to get his players going for this game. But once they hit the field, both teams, and the Lions' intensity is felt, who knows? They could just play them right out of the building. We can only hope. But there's definitely a good chance, I think, for the Lions to go into this one and win the game. It's going to be probably similar to last week's game, where it'll be like a 30-24, or potentially even more points. Who knows? But yeah, this is going to be a very exciting game. I'm definitely picking the Lions +6. The line has since moved down to +5.5 for them. It's probably going to get bet down even more to maybe 4.5, or possibly even 3.5. This depends on how much faith the public has in this one. But since I think that there's a decent chance that the Lions will win this one, I would even go Lions money line, get it while it's good, and over +200. So yeah, a lot of faith in the Lions in this one. More faith than you've probably had on this team in the last 30 years at least. This team's different, and they're playing really hard for the coaching staff. The coaching staff knows what to do with the players to put them in a position to succeed. It seems like they're really good at studying not only the other team's weaknesses, but also shoring up their own weaknesses, and that whole self-scouting thing that I mentioned in previous episodes. It seems like they're at least starting to do that a little bit and shore up their own mistakes and kind of switching around their own tendencies. Now, of course, on offense, Ben Johnson, we all must admit he does get a little too cute on the offensive side sometimes. Just keep it simple, keep it on the ground. This Cowboys defense is not very good against the run. They're in the high 20s or low 20s, whichever way you want to say it. I think they're like 28th or 29th, so towards the very bottom of the league. So definitely want to keep it on the ground, especially considering how good Gibbs especially was last week in not only scoring but getting those yards in. And that's the thing about this team too. The coaching staff said that they didn't want to leave so many plays on the field this year as they did last year. And not that it's necessarily a bad thing, but there are still certain plays that are getting left on the field a little bit, especially with Gibbs. Now, this will come with time. He'll be able to finish runs later on, but, the amount of times that Gibbs, flashes a big run, and then, for whatever reason, it gets forced down just short, getting tackled inside the 5-yard line. I don't know what it is about Lions star offensive players getting tackled inside the 5. If you remember, Calvin Johnson, a lot of times, got tackled inside the 5-yard line. Who knows how many touchdowns he would have for his career if he was able to finish every single catch like that with a touchdown. But, I think there was one in this Vikings game where Gibbs was kind of forced down kind of awkwardly. And then also with Gibbs, the drops have been a little bit of an issue this season. He's had some big plays or potential big plays that he ended up dropping. But, stuff like that will come with time. And then also on the defensive side, there was also a fumble by Mullins on that last drive of the game, where if Kaminsky just fell on it, the Lions would have won the game a lot earlier. But instead, he tried to scoop and score it. Now, of course, when you're a defensive player like that and you have the potential to yourself put the team up by 2 possessions, you definitely it's definitely in your head to go for broke in that situation and not just fall on the ball. But just fall on the ball, Kaminsky. Just give your, especially with your offense, give your offense that the ball back since they're so good, and be able to ice the game. Also, I'm not sure if you noticed, but in several episodes we've had this little ticker flash, something about the Nebraska volleyball and their 90,000 fans. It's kind of like a little inside joke, I guess, if you're watching on YouTube. Yeah, NCAA volleyball getting really big. But yeah, and then on the injury front for the Lions, it looks like it's going to be yet another week for C.J. Gardner-Johnson and James Houston to return. But it's not just bad news for this week. I mean, we obviously miss having those players, but it's not the end of the world not to have those guys. The defense is still playing well without them. But the good news on that front is the fact that it sounds like all of those key guys are going to end up being healthy for the playoffs at least. I don't know if they'll end up playing in that final game against the Vikings. I mean, maybe they will just to try and get them back into shape just in time for that. But yeah, it looks like the defense is going to be healthy for the playoffs, which is a very good sign. Ali McNeil, James Houston, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, all having that estimated return date of January 7th. So, the team's going to be getting healthy at just the right time. They're going to be playing their best ball at just the right time. And all the other teams that are in contention for that NFC championship, they're all, having their struggles after doing really well in the early part of the season. So it's really good that the Lions were able to get their struggles out of the way relatively early. And, not even doing a bad job at being bad either, as they still have not dropped back-to-back games this year. So, yeah, we'll see if the momentum's enough to carry over into Dallas. The main thing I want to see is for the Lions to, get out to perhaps an early lead and, be able to play from the front like they did in the last game. Not just to get themselves going, but also we'll see how quickly the stadium will end up getting taken over by Lions fans. Because as we've seen in almost every single away game this season, once the Lions are able to get out to a good lead and, get everything rolling, the Lions fans get really loud and kind of outdo the home team fans, which is probably a big reason that the Lions are 6-2 on the road this season, which is really surprising. Now, of course, the Cowboys are 7-0 at home, but a lot of that home field advantage can be attributed to their fans getting into it once the Cowboys start playing well. But if the Lions are able to flip the script there and are not allowing the Cowboys to get to where they want to be at home, and instead the Lions are doing that, then that home field advantage could flip towards the Lions as their fans kind of take over. So it's a very exciting time to be a Lions fan as they try and head into these playoffs with everything on their side to get that playoff victory and make a run out of it, especially if they're able to get that 1 seed, which I think they have a pretty good chance of doing. I think that the Rams would definitely be able to beat the 49ers in that last game of the season. And the Lions' chances of winning out, I mean, they're better than a lot of people think, I would say. So, yeah, the 1 seed is not out of the grasp of the Lions, which is crazy. And, of course, as we all know, the first part of going on a deep playoff run and going to the Super Bowl is getting that first round bye. So, it's already an impressive season in and of itself for the Lions, but it could become even more impressive and could be their best season ever. So we'll see what happens this weekend. And remember to spay and neuter your animals.